Today we have a crazy story of revenge where a lie ends up in somebody getting a tattoo. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, one more pen petty revenge. My boss was so stingy, I swear this is true, that on your first day of work, you were given one pen. When you needed a replacement, you had to turn in the old out-of-ink pen to get another. If you lost it, tough. You had to replace it. Most employees just rolled their eyes and bought their own pens. Not me. I can be as petty as I need to be. I started collecting free giveaway pens for work. Joe's Bail Bonds, my new work pen, Jack's Gentleman Club, complete with topless stripper imprint, new work pen. My boss would give me the look when I used that pen in front of a customer, but he didn't break. Eventually, I had a container of those pens on my desk. They started to disappear, a few at a time and only the most offensive ones. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided pens were important. My boss said so. You must keep track of your pen because it would not be replaced. So every time a pen went missing, I made a big stink. Hey, have you seen my stripper pen? Somebody took it. I have to find it. I looked through all of the desks. I complained to everyone. My boss, my coworkers, the customers. One day I came to work and every employee had a pack of new pens on their desk. OP played their boss's game so hard that they essentially bullied them into saying, you know what, I'm going to provide everybody more pens than they even need, just so I don't have to explain to OP where the Jack's Gentleman's Club pen went. X Shiny Soul X commented, I never thought I would say this, but I feel lucky to work in an office with a stationery cupboard. Bravo to you. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. Our next story is, I'm quite attached to it. Some years back, I bought myself a new car. I'm not normally into possessions, but it was nice to have something that I did need that hadn't been previously owned by someone else. On the first week I owned it, I bought some aftermarket car mats and seat covers to bling it up. The following weekend, my wife and I grabbed a couple of CDs and jumped in the car to go for a drive out of town. We were going on a long, sweeping bend on a country road when we hit something on the road. The front tire instantly shredded, and as the car was front-wheel drive, I lost control. We spun off the road. Fortunately, we weren't hurt, but the car was badly damaged. The car got towed away to the yard. Sometime later, I got a call from my insurance agent to tell me that it wasn't worth repairing and that they would pay me out. All good. We got a replacement car shortly after. I picked it up and then I remembered about the CDs and the mats that were still in the original car. As we had bought them separately from the car, I rang the agent to see if we could get them back. The agent made inquiries and rang us back. The car had since been on-sold. He contacted the new owner, who said that he had grown attached to the items and wanted to keep them. I was more annoyed at the new owner's arrogant attitude than losing my stuff, but it wasn't worth getting worked up about. Then, a few weeks later, the agent rang me back. The new owner was asking if I still had the spare key. It was one of those transponder things and was quite expensive. I looked around and found it, and then I took great pleasure in telling the agent that I had grown attached to the key and I wanted to keep it. We both had a laugh. He rang the new owner back with the news, and I threw the key in the rubbish. You know, this shiny new $50+ key fob here. I really like this thing. I think I'm gonna keep it as a knick-knack and make an art project out of it. Just so happens the canvas is the bottom of my trash bin. In all seriousness, I don't really fault the new owner for wanting to keep the stuff if they really like it. But when they reach out and ask if they have the spare key, don't expect any favors. Leslie Smith 09 commented, that ending was cleaner than the insurance payout. Absolute perfection. Plot twist, the real attachment was the friends we made along the road. Nah, it was the key. Our next story is, overzealous mother-in-law doesn't respect food boundaries, gets hit with a fart machine. To preface, I love my mother-in-law and value and appreciate everything she does for my family, but she really leans into her role as a grandmother and has said, I'm a grandma, I can do whatever I want, whenever we ask her to respect our food choices for our kid. This means spoiling her grandkids with sweets and treats against her kids' wishes at every whim. Her kitchen has full cookie drawers at all times. I once watched her give my 8-year-old nephew a full angel food cake just to see what he would do. Spoiler, he ate the full thing and then got sick. So over the weekend, we're staying at her house, and my 3.5-year-old son is very well aware that she'll give him whatever he wants. It's breakfast time and he's asking for ice cream and cookies, to which I say no and redirect him to his banana and yogurt. She gives him the chocolate chip cookies anyways, and I say, I would appreciate you not feeding my son cookies before 8:30 in the morning. She just smiles and says, oh come on, let him live a little. Later that morning, my wife and I are out shopping at one of those beach/tchotchke stores. It's a coastal town, you know the type. And I overhear someone else say, who would want a fart noisemaker on a keychain? Well, this guy. My mother-in-law absolutely hates potty humor. And my son is a 3.5-year-old boy, so yeah, farts are the funniest thing in his world right now. I bring it home and it goes exactly as I predicted. She hates it and he loves it. But she can't say anything because she sees how much he's enjoying himself. The thing has 6 different noises and he's absolutely laying into it, having a blast and all around cackling. So my mother-in-law is grumbling about how disgusting it is and how she hopes it breaks, and I just shoot her a grin and say, oh come on, let him live a little. Now, to be fair, what Grandma is doing here is kind of like one of the perks of being the fun uncle or the grandparent. You get all the fun, you can be the hero, you can give the kids what they want, and then you don't have to take care of them at the end of the day. That said, I've definitely heard a few revenge stories that are kind of similar to what OP shared here, in the sense that they send their kids to Grandma's house with like crazy noisemakers or something. Basically like gifting Grandma the really noisy toys so that when the kids are over at her place, they will expect to play with the toys that are firing off and making really loud whirly sounds and whatnot. Our next story is another couldn't let 5 cents slide story. Actually, it was 7 cents. This happened almost 50 years ago when we used to pay for everything with cash. My friend and I were planning a big party. My buddy and I went to the local big beer store to buy 1/2 of a keg, as it was the only place in town that sold kegs. The clerk told us the price, we pooled our money, and we were 7 cents short on a roughly $50 sale. We asked if he would give it to us for 7 cents off. He said no, can't do it. We called out the big beer store manager and asked him if he would give us 7 cents off on the price. Same answer, no, can't do it. We went out to the car, searched under the seats for stray coins, no luck, still 7 cents short. We went back into the store to try again. The manager, with a predatory grin, said, why don't you boys just buy several cases of beer instead? We knew we would get less beer for the money that way, and the store would make more profit. That's why we wanted the keg in the first place. My buddy said, good idea, we'll just buy several cases from the little mom and pop grocery store across the street, and he headed for the door. I've never seen a predatory grin disappear from a store manager's face so quickly. It was priceless. Now, I guess I can understand if this is like some big national chain or something, like they literally just do not have the power or like would be at risk of losing their jobs over 7 cents, as ludicrous as it sounds. But I just find it hard to believe that on a $50 sale, they wouldn't be able to look the other way on 7 cents. I remember as a little kid at the zoo trying to get a toy and I only had money for pre-tax price. I was so confused because I only had exact change and the cashier felt bad for me and still let it go. I didn't understand what sales tax was back then. DJ42 Music commented, things are so different now. I was short $2.50 at the dispensary and the bud tender pulled out a $5 bill out of the tip jar, set it on my pile of bills and said, no you're not. Our next story is, happiness is the best revenge. I was working at a job where I had 2 coworkers/assistants. Their job position was intended to partially support mine, and partially they worked independently as well. I reported directly to the manager. These 2 gals were nasty and decided to try and get me fired because one of them wanted my position. They kept running to the manager with frivolous complaints about me and constantly undermined my work by not doing the support work. In addition, 2 other people left at the same time, so pretty soon I was overwhelmed, overworked, and miserable, working what felt like 3 jobs instead of 1. The more miserable I got, the more visibly happy they were, and I would get even more sad, because I once thought of these gals as friends. I felt like I was carrying so much weight on my shoulders, feeling unsupported by my manager, being attacked by these women who were once my friends, and just physically and emotionally overwhelmed with so much work. I was running myself ragged and really letting go of my appearance and just looking so bedraggled. One day, I was sitting in my apartment crying, thinking about the smirks on their faces when I left that day, and then I thought to myself, wait a minute, if they're so happy seeing me miserable, then the opposite must be true. What if they saw me happy? The next day, I woke up, combed my hair, wore makeup, put on the nicest clothes I had. Then I went to my job and pranced in with a huge smile on my face like I was on cloud nine. I chatted happily with my favorite coworker loudly, who sat next to the other two women. I watched these two gals out of the corner of my eye, and they exchanged a wide-eyed look that said, "We're doomed." The next week, they tried their best to annoy me. One of them kept interrupting me constantly, unnecessarily, and every time I gushed with smiles and gratitude. The disappointment on their faces was downright hilarious. I enjoyed smiling at them every time I passed by, saying over the top sweetly please and thank you and acting so incredibly considerate towards them every chance I got. It drove them insane. Pretty soon, they were looking terrified and miserable. It became fairly apparent that they had thought I had some secret discussion with the manager. At one point, one of the gals had an outburst and went and yelled at the manager saying, "You're going to fire me anyway." She did get fired. And it wasn't because I had said anything to the manager. It was only because she couldn't handle me being happy. The other one was scared into silence after that. I eventually left that job because the management sucked. I'm still in awe at how just appearing happy and being super nice affected them so much. I got to make them as miserable as they made me without having to be actually unkind to them like they were to me. You know, I don't actually usually expect to see kill them with kindness like so literally, but it's kind of exactly what happened here. Our next story is, I lied to pick me friend as well. Just read that pick me friend story on here that reminded me of a friend I made at work. This was in 2014 or 2015. The friend I made became my after work drinking buddy and we hung out on our days off. She became my bestie. We met at a restaurant that was 2 stories, a lot of employees. We were always so busy. Lots of employees equal work parties, fun, drama, and hookups, of course. I realized that anytime I said someone is cute and showed interest, I noticed my bestie would start liking that person, whether it was someone at work or someone at a bar, anytime I showed interest. It was like she had to have him, or do some mean girl catty stuff. It annoyed me because I never liked who she liked and would take them as off limits, but she did the exact opposite. When she would bring up who I brought up, it would be as if I never said anything about said guy. So one day at work, I have a thought that, I bet if I tell Bestie I think Sam is cute, she would freak him. Sam was liked by a lot of girls at work and cheated on his girlfriend with them. He was a dog. He wasn't as hot as they all treated him. He once tried hitting on me and I didn't return the flirtation, which annoyed him. Anyways, I say to Bestie, Sam's so hot, I want to make out with him. I'm not kidding. The weekend within a couple of days we all went out. She slept with him in his car and she said it was horrible and went quickly and kept complaining about it. That's all. Maybe I didn't create the hookup, but I wholeheartedly believed I did. I think it's pretty clear that OP did create that hookup. I mean, ideally, you would just kind of stop talking to this person and freeze them out, but if you kept talking to them, I guess you just lie and you tell them everybody that you don't actually think is interesting are interesting. Leslie Smith 09 commented, LMAO, you basically ran a social experiment and proved your theory 100%. She couldn't resist. Not you planting Sam like a decoy and she took the bait right away. Queen behavior. Our next story is, I changed my fiance's Tinder account. Well, it's exactly as it reads. I, 30-year-old female, was engaged to my fiance, 32-year-old male, until I wasn't. 40 days before the wedding, I found out he was cheating. I had a dress, we had flights, destination elopement. It was 40 days out. Anyway, he had a Tinder account and was telling women we were polyamorous if it came up. Well, before I fully called off the engagement, I went on his phone and changed the Tinder account. I don't care if it's petty or evil. We had 2 kids, a home, and a whole butt life. So, I changed the account, replaced his photos with mine, deleted his bio, and even paid the $8 fee so he could see how many likes were coming in. When he saw it, he crapped bricks. After maybe 6 hours, there were already thousands of likes, men trying to match me. Shortly after, I made him leave, I own the home, and canceled the entire wedding. Needless to say, I am doing much better these days. Honestly, at that point, the only consolation for that dude is if he wouldn't be jealous about it. I mean, he's already on Tinder anyways trying to find somebody else, so why should he necessarily care that thousands of men are lining up to say hi to his ex-fiancée? Leonidas0613 commented, "Here comes the bride. She knows you lied. Bravo." This next story is, lock my funds because of your mistake? Have your bank's social media ruined? For some reason, God knows why, I thought I would trust a very small and local credit union with some of my money. When recently my card didn't work on the ATM, I asked for help inside the branch, and a clerk gave me a code to use that would deduct cash directly from my account. This is a feature that the bank has. I wasn't having special treatment. Fast forward a few days, it seems the bank system flagged my account for review because of some accounting error being late to deduct my balance. I didn't go on overdraft or anything, it was just a minor mistake from their side, and still, for over a month, all of my funds were locked, and whenever I would call my bank support, I was given snarky responses, sometimes even hinting that they didn't like my foreign-sounding last name. When I spoke to my family back home to vent about this situation, a younger cousin came up with an idea. Use some Russian service that pays the people a few Russian rubles. 1 ruble is approximately 1 US cent for reference, each time to post whatever you ask them on social media. This service worked like magic. The website even had the option to choose between American-looking profiles and other locales. After the most well-spent $3 of my life and some AI prompts later, the credit union's social media were flooded with hundreds of complaints. I'm sure this got to the right ears, because on the same day, the bank's call center manager personally called me to say they understand my frustration, and even if I don't want my account anymore, the bank is ready to initialize a transfer of my full balance, plus $50 compensation to any other bank of my choosing. Problem solved. They probably also realized there was no way to link this activity to me, and hence hinted at ending things on a positive note. Too bad I can't tell the Russian bots to remove their posts. That'll be someone else's problem now. While I'm definitely not going to be an advocate for Russian bot posting on Twitter or whatever social media service they want to share on, it did seem pretty effective. It's kind of sad to say, but you kind of have to go out of your way to make sure you vet whatever bank or credit union you're working with. I mean, bottom line, when they're handling your money, you want to make sure that they're a reliable partner. OK Computer Science commented, credit unions are cooperatives that were traditionally set up by employees because banks won't loan to most individuals. Unlike banks, credit unions are not for profit and use any money they make to offer no-fee accounts, lower rates, and sponsor community events. Additionally, most credit unions try to serve underprivileged communities because banks see them as high risk. First tech loans to immigrants with no credit history if they can verify their employment. Sunword was developing a website in Navajo because they wanted to support the Native American community in New Mexico. Tapco was developing a website in Russian and Thai and a variety of other languages because they saw these groups of people as unserved in their community. What happened to the poster is frustrating, but credit unions are one of the only alternatives to big banks. SJ Sam Drake commented, "That's not as true as it used to be. Nowadays, many formerly employee credit unions have no membership requirements and act like little banks. The one I've been a member of for 40 years is unrecognizable from what it used to be." Our next story is, taking more than your share? Let me help with that. As we all know, food prices in the US continue to rise. This lovely Monday, I was very excited to find family packs of chicken at my local supermarket at 99 cents a pound, with a limit of 4. I took one, and then later decided to grab a second one for freezing. Walking to the fridge, I found a man clearing out the last entire row of chicken, around 14 packs, into his cart. I said, "Wow, I was hoping to get one of those," and he replied back, "Oh, these'll be for my dog," indicating down to his leashed French bulldog and smiling meanly at me, and then he pointed to the $1.79 chicken and said, "You can have that one." I smiled at him and started digging. With some luck, I was able to find one last 99-cent chicken pack in the back behind some wings. Getting up to the front, there were 2 open checkout lanes, express, 10 items or less, and 1 regular lane, so I started a friendly conversation with the cashier. I said, "Gosh, this is a great price for chicken. Is there a limit on how many?" The cashier says, "I'm not sure, let me check," opening the sales ad and says, It's a limit of 4. Would you like to get 2 more? I said, oh, that's alright. Thank you for checking. Then I turned to my partner and said, I can see how they would limit how many you can take at such a price, and walked out. Enjoy putting your chicken back, old man. Now, I don't know if the point of sale at these places are going to be like fancy enough to straight up stop them themselves. If it doesn't, it really is going to come down to that cashier, and it depends how chill they are. Like, I'm gonna be honest, unless I'm like wanting to grab some chicken after I get off work or something, I would probably be just trying to check this person out as quickly as possible. Like, I wouldn't want to be the cashier that has to be the limit police. Coder Joe 1 commented, I was so embarrassed as a kid when my mom pulled a Karen move like that on frozen pot pies. She held the newspaper flyer up to argue with the grocery clerk that it didn't mention a limit in the ad. She bought 2 entire cases. I had pot pies for dinner for the next year. OP responded commenting, what's funny is my childhood was also like this too. Mom would Karen her way into taking more than her fair share like it was a sport. It always rubbed me the wrong way, and it shaped me into actively avoiding that kind of thing. Our next story is, I lied to my pick-me friend, and she got a tattoo based off of it. It's been about 2 years since this happened, but I just got confirmation from a friend who attended her tattoo appointment that it was because of what I said. The backstory, I, 25-year-old female, was introduced to Peggy, fake name, 25-year-old female, through a mutual friend. She had recently moved into the friend's neighboring apartment unit and was quickly introduced to our friend group. Almost immediately, I could tell we weren't going to get along based off of some backhanded compliments that were given. But I decided that it was too quick to judge her fairly and invited her to a game night that a friend and I were hosting. Huge mistake. Game 1, sardines. During a drunken game of sardines in the dark, Peggy faked a fall and pushed my head into a shelf. How do I know she faked it? Because she literally told me in front of everyone and laughed about it, saying, I found him first, that's why I pushed you. Game 2, King's Cup. Peggy called me out during the never have I ever portion for having gone through a divorce. Talking about it normally wouldn't have bothered me since everybody who was there already knew about it and was really supportive during that time. But it was the fact that she was trying to single me out and shame me for it. Throughout the rest of the night, this kind of behavior continued, and by the end, I was thoroughly convinced that she had some sort of vendetta against me. Finding out what, or in my case, who it was, took almost no time at all. One of our friends, who we'll call Mark, was in attendance that first night. Mark, 28-year-old male, is a tall, kind, funny, and generally attractive guy. Essentially, he's catnip for her type. At this time, we were pretty close friends, and Peggy did not like that. For the next 6 months, anytime he was around, I had to deal with the most ridiculous, awkward, and petty attempts of her trying to single me out or embarrass me. Now here's where the tattoo comes into play. I'd been planning on getting a dragon tattoo for over a year. I am fully aware that dragons are a common and trending tattoo, but I wanted it anyways because it was special to me and my mom. I had even worked out with my tattoo artist on incorporating her favorite flowers into the piece and figuring out what kind of style and other details I wanted. About a month before my appointment, Peggy heard a friend and I talking about the tattoo and started asking questions. I swear, I could see the moment the light bulb went off in her head because she grew the biggest poop-eating grin I have ever seen. My light bulb moment happened shortly after. When she asked where and what kind of dragon tattoo I wanted to get, I lied. I told her about how much I loved the movie Spirited Away, because I do, it's a banger, and went on a tangent about how I grew up on that movie, how my dad showed it to me, and that it would be cool if he, Haku, was wrapping around my arm or something. If you haven't seen the movie, one of the main characters is a boy named Haku who turns into a dragon. Peggy had never seen this movie before, so I encouraged her to check it out and ended the conversation there. Now, considering she had never seen it before, I didn't think she would actually do it. But Reddit, she did it. And it wasn't just a tiny, cutesy little thing either. She committed to my exact description. The thing is freaking huge. When she showed it to me 2 weeks later, I was in shock and she probably thought I was upset for taking something from me. But I went home that night and switched between feeling awful for lying to her and laughing for how utterly unbelievable she was for doing it. 2 years later, and I'm still doing that. I'd confessed to a friend recently about my lie, and that's when she told me. She went to the tattoo appointment with Peggy that day, and word for word, Peggy had said, "She's going to be so upset. This is like the exact tattoo she wanted." Now, I definitely understand being a mean girl, being jealous, wanting to be as good as this other person. The idea of hearing a description of a dragon tattoo from a movie you haven't even seen and being so committed to the bit that you're going to go out there to a tattoo shop and steal it and eagerly tell one of your acquaintances, "Oh, they're going to be so upset that I'm stealing this from them." I mean, what kind of terrible comic book villain are you? 1100's commented, "That was a good way to mess with her, but are you sure any of these people are your friends? They're intentionally keeping this person around who is very clearly out to mess with you, apparently to the point of doing big villain speeches about her plans when she thinks she's won, and nobody's giving you a heads up or anything, let alone defending you." Our next story is, my coworker kept stealing my pens, so I swapped them out. I used to leave a few pens on my desk, but they always seemed to vanish. At first, I thought maybe I was just being careless, but then I noticed one of my coworkers always had the exact same pens I bought. Instead of calling him out, I decided to make things a little interesting. I bought a pack of disappearing ink pens and left them in the usual spot. Sure enough, he borrowed one right before a meeting and started taking notes. About halfway through, his notes began fading until the page looked blank. He stared at it in total confusion while everyone else kept writing. I had to keep a straight face, but inside I was dying of laughter. Needless to say, he never touched my pens again after that little incident, and my desk supplies have been safe ever since. Now, I've heard of stuff like invisible ink, where I guess you probably need like a UV light or something to see it. And maybe I just haven't been studious enough about my magic tricks or weird quirky things and whatnot. But are there really disappearing ink pens? You write something down and then after a while it vanishes? Can you still see it with UV light or something? I have to go look this up now. Our next story is, neighbor kept treating my driveway like free parking, so I taught him a $300 lesson. Okay, so this is a bit long, but I need to get it off my chest. I live in a small cul-de-sac. Nothing fancy, just your average neighborhood. My driveway fits 2 cars, mine and my husband's, perfectly fine. For the most part, everyone here minds their own business, except my neighbor, let's just call him Jack. For whatever reason, he thinks my driveway is extra parking for his family and friends. First time it happened, I thought it was a mistake. His brother's car was in there. He said it would just be a sec. A week later, it was some friend of his dropping something off. I didn't love it, but I figured, whatever, not worth making it awkward. But it kept happening. I would come home from work. I'm a nurse, so some days I'm wiped out, and there's a random car blocking me. One night, I literally had to park halfway down the street and carry 5 bags of groceries because his buddy's truck was in my spot. Every time I said something, he would do that half smile and go, "Oh yeah, sorry, they'll be gone soon." Like I'm the one being difficult. The final straw, I get home late Friday night after a 12-hour shift, still in scrubs, starving with takeout that's already getting cold on the passenger seat, and boom, giant white SUV just parked dead center in my driveway. Not even off to the side, full on blocking me from even pulling in. I knock, no answer. I call Jack, he finally picks up and super casual goes, "Oh yeah, that's my in-laws. They'll only be here a couple of hours. Just park on the street, it's not a big deal." That was it for me. I called the tow truck. And yes, I checked before. Where I live, if someone blocks your private driveway, you're allowed to tow immediately. Tow guy showed up in 20 minutes. SUV was gone before I even finished half my fries. About an hour later, furious pounding on my door. Jack's beet red, his in-laws are yelling in the background, and he's going off about how I didn't have to take it that far. I just said, "You told me it wasn't a big deal," so I treated it like it wasn't a big deal. Then I closed the door. They had to pay almost $300 to get their car back, and funny enough, ever since then, my driveway has stayed crystal clear. Not even for just a sec. And that's exactly how it should stay. It always annoys me whenever I hear any story about somebody parking in another person's yard or driveway or anything like that. I mean, I'd like to advocate for people using common sense, but people don't care. Open Source 4747 commented, "Love the logic here. Just park on the side of the street. It's no big deal. If it's no big deal, why did your in-law knowingly park in a stranger's driveway instead of parking in the street? This self-entitlement here is wild." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy pro-revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.